Within minutes of the bank robbery, Mobile police surrounded a house on Kendall and Myra Drive off Pleasant Valley.
I don't know what happened.
They believed the robbers were inside, along with a 3-year-old boy.
Oh, that mercy, Jesus, child ain't know.
They called me at work and stated that the police had surrounded my daughter. They had surrounded the house and that my grandson was in it.
Priscilla Witherspoon is the child's grandmother. Family members of the child and one of the suspects waited as police tried to talk the armed men out of the home. At one point, a loud noise was heard.
Diversionary device that we used to go in and we apprehended one of the suspects that had barricaded himself inside.
Within less than an hour, police had 3 suspects in custody. While the men were led from the home, family members rushed to see if the baby was okay.
Come here, baby. Come here, baby. Oh, my God. This is my grandbaby, Jamarcus. Tell him hey, Jamarcus. Wave at him. That's a TV man. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus.
Another grandmother and the mother of one of the suspects was also relieved.
I am just so glad my son come out of there alive. Now, I don't know what he did, but he has a second chance if he's out there alive.
Well, it's a great honor for me to be able to support our veterans and remember all our fallen veterans that have gave it all for their country and their flag.
Now that we actually have a fallen veteran in the family, Memorial Day has taken on a very special meaning. Standing in this garden of stone, this Memorial Day for me is a special Memorial Day and one that I shall remember probably the rest of my life.
This is what we all go into service for, and we volunteer to go into service to take care of our country, and we do it out of our hearts. That's what they fought for, that's what they passed on for the country and for that flag.
Ready, aim, fire, aim, fire, aim, fire.
It's amazing that so many will take special time out of their what could be their day of leisure to come out and remember all of the fallen heroes.
I'm a veteran, and I respect all these people who died for our country.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This day is a blessing from God. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve my community and serve the police department.
What you see is the end road of some very hard work. 49 were promoted today.
Lieutenant to Captain, Linda Timms. From Lieutenant to Captain, John Barber. Sergeant to Lieutenant, Sergeant to Lieutenant Johnny Lamner. Eldridge Fox, Michael Hewitt, Timothy Herron.
Each one of those carry with it some tremendous responsibility, some very high expectations from the department itself, and we expect them to take a leadership role.
The department's growing. The needs and the challenges we face are certainly greater today than they've ever been. So we have to make these promotions and we have to grow the department. That's what we're trying to do.
Without the support of your family, this job is very demanding.
And encouraging each other is very important because we are family.
We're always working together and doing things and developing strategies, is trying to find and do some problem solving. And I do learn from that.
And so that's the greatest challenge to us, is to be able to deliver proper or professional police services to the communities we serve.
Corporal to Sergeant Armand Campbell.
We must stick together. We must go out and stay focused on our task, and that is to protect and serve the citizens of the city of Mobile.
Kara Rose.
While Hurricane Frederick was brewing in the Gulf of Mexico, Eldon Bryson was busy.
Well, I've got the crack fixed. It'll be glued on.
Not busy boarding up windows or stockpiling supplies, but finishing a fiddle.
This is one I made back in 1979. Just before Frederick.
Nearly 30 years ago, while I was learning to smile, Eldon Bryson was embarking on a lifelong love affair, one that makes him smile.
And I've always been a cobbler, piddler.
Today, tucked away inside his tiny workshop in western Mobile County, with the father of bluegrass music, Bill Monroe, keeping him company.
Played with Bill when I was 7 years old. You ready to go? See the difference in the sound?
Watch as Bryson sands down a piece of wood, carefully crafting his latest fiddle.
It's going to be a nice instrument. See that grain in that wood? It's Italian.
Sometimes working into the wee hours of the morning, pouring all he has into grooming this Italian wood, drawing details, smoothing surfaces, seeing past the sawdust and wood chips to the instrument it will become.
That's inlaid.
This is Bryson's 17th handmade fiddle. It usually takes him about a month to build just one. He sold a few, but mostly he gives them to friends and fellow musicians. But Bryson says it's not so much the wood that makes a fine fiddle. The secret is in the fine tuning.
And I tune that back to A and tune the top to F sharp.
Eldon Bryson's been making music and instruments in Mobile for years. You want proof? Take a look at this wall. Whoever comes here actually signs it. And I signed it back in 1992. You see, I've been where 10-year-old William is now. And even today, this violin virtuoso nurtures the next generation of fiddle players. From fine-tuning fiddles and fiddle players, this cobbler has turned his passion for music into his life's work. And it's all made right here on the Gulf Coast.
William ran out of steam.
In Mobile County. April Douglas, Fox 10 News.
It's so good to see you. You have your CBS card. Look at that, isn't that cute?
Meet Annie Rogers. Miss Hollywood she isn't.
Thank you.
But she is a local celebrity.
I know.
In her own right.
Oh, yeah.
You see, everybody
Hi, how you doing?
knows.
Look at that double chin.
Miss Annie.
Everybody in Grand Bay is my friend. So that would be hard because I've lived here since 1926.
And for the past 3 decades, she's been running the register at the local pharmacy. That's longer than some of her customers have been alive.
I can have a whole line of customers, and I can open up a register and ask them to please come and check out, and they'll say, no, I'm going to wait on Miss Annie.
And at the age of 94, Miss Annie says it's only by the grace of God that she's been working for as long as she has, and she's enjoyed every minute.
When you get to work in your own hometown with your own people that long, what else is there? Aren't they gorgeous?
Annie says there are too many good memories to count. Working behind the counter is a job she holds near and dear.
I never get bored. I love people. And most all of these people I know, I watch their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So I've had the best life of anybody that I know of.
Co-workers say Miss Annie's life is a force that's impacted theirs. They describe her as a magnet.
I don't even have to turn around and look. I can feel Miss Annie behind me.
While the name on the building might say one thing, there are some who will always think of this as Annie's place.
She doesn't sign the checks, but yes, this is Miss Annie's home.
And so they've all gathered to celebrate Miss Annie's milestone, 30 years on the job and still going strong.
Hope to share this same store for another 30 years, if I make it that long.
We know I won't.
But her legacy certainly will stand the test of time.
Thank you, and you have a good day.
In Grand Bay, April Douglas, Fox 10 News.
we're just happy to be a part of what the community's doing.
All right, yeah! Wow!
I feel it's important to give back to the community.
Hey, Mountain Man! Hey, Mountain Man! Oh!
Tonight, we were working with raising funds for the Salvation Army.
The crowd was just really into it all night. I know that in my heart that these people walked out of here with these canned goods, and they're going to be able to give them to somebody that needs them.
Woo! Come on, get up!
If I can do anything to give back, I feel like that's something I should do and I enjoy doing.
Yes!
It's not the numbers, it's the heart that counts.
1, 2, 3!
18,721. It's not hard to find. Just look for the American flag. In fact, if you look hard enough, you'll notice it's the only flag flying on this street, compliments of our greatest generation.
I'm 85 years old, and it's a long life. The Lord's been good to me, and I'm still healthy.
You might say Clay Grant is 85 years young.
You're tired, aren't you? Tired of this old man talk, huh?
The World War II veteran built the house he still lives in today, and over time he's gotten pretty good at carpentry.
Well, you said it, but I'm not going to disagree with it.
Grant passes the time watching the clock tick by in his rustic yet familiar work shed, sanding, sawing, but also thinking about the life he lived almost 7 decades ago.
I've been through a lot. I wouldn't take anything in the world for these old experiences I've got, any one of them. There's a lot of them I wouldn't want to go through everything.
At the age of 17, Grant joined the Tennessee Army National Guard, and just 3 years after that, he was standing face to face with President Franklin D. Roosevelt.
I was, amongst other things, the regimental color sergeant, and we were called upon to present the colors to the President of the United States. And I thought that was quite an honor, and I appreciate it so much.
So much so, it still guides Grant to this very day. He says it's just one of the many experiences the military taught him about respect.
It makes a big difference, and you learn to not only respect them for who and what they are, but it gives you a target to look at. We all need to look ahead and up in order to be successful in life. You just take every day that comes, that's not going to get you very far.
But Grant knows the military is also about life, death, and sacrifice.
The routine is just get up and stay alive and stay engaged.
During the Second World War, he endured almost 200 consecutive days of enemy fire, and at times, Grant says it was difficult to believe the pictures playing out before his own eyes.
It was the most beautiful sight that you could possibly imagine. Those fighter planes up there firing tracer bullets, with every fifth shot to tracer at one another, and also the bombs that they're dropping, the explosions, and so forth. Fantastically beautiful, but it's at the same token, it's absolutely mind-boggling of the death and destruction that's going on.
But Grant says if you look past the gore and the glory of war, his service was simply about doing what he had to do.
We're all in the same position of attempting to do the best of our ability, what our government expects us to do in order to protect our citizens and our country.
That also includes our history, which is still living in Clay Grant today, life lessons that he hopes to pass on from his generation to the next.
It's up to us to see to it that they know some of the circumstances that have been, as I said before, will be again.
So while the address may not read 18,721, just look for the American flag. Chances are there's another Clay Grant.
I feel good about what I've accomplished, yes I do.
Living on a street near you.
How are you this morning? Are you checking out today? Next, please. Here's your due date list. And you have a very nice day. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Page after page, books broaden our horizons. They spark creativity, teach, and enlighten. They can also reinvigorate past thoughts and feelings, which is just the case with military books and the O'Rourke family.
War, a state of open, armed, often prolonged conflict.
Carried on between nations, states, or parties.
But of all the military books that can be found, none will ever resonate with this family as much as its own photo album.
When we visit one another, there's always a little military that enters into the conversation.
Owen, John, and Christopher, 3 different generations that share more than just a last name. Military service is in their blood, an influence passed down from father to father.
Hero, a person noted for feats of courage or nobility of purpose.
Especially one who has risked or sacrificed his or her life.
Owen S. O'Rourke started this family tradition back in 1942 when he served as a B-17 gunner. Owen says he spent his combat days listening to the sound of artillery shells in a sky riddled with bullets.
The plane, I wasn't hit personally, didn't get a scratch on me, but our planes got pretty well shot up.
And while every mission was different, when it came to feelings, Owen says it was always the same story.
Well, first of all, I joined because of patriotism. Was I scared? Yes, every time I went on a mission, I was scared. I think we all were.
Veteran, a person who is long experienced or practiced
in any activity or capacity.
Almost 50 years later, there was another war and another O'Rourke, but the Gulf War was a different kind of conflict altogether.
We put up with the sandstorms and sometimes not so tasty chow.
Still, John O'Rourke says he did his duty as a member of combat service support in the Army National Guard.
Life was a series of meeting and greeting active units coming through, giving them the necessary support.
Unlike his father, John was never on the front lines of battle, but says he played his part, a part that he'll never forget.
Put a lot of effort in, you get a lot out.
Service, employment and duties or work for another.
As for our government.
The youngest O'Rourke in the family is Christopher.
He's just been a typical boy, graduated from high school. Instead of going to college, he told me he felt like the military would be good for him. And so that's what he decided to do.
Christopher is serving as a Marine in the Iraq War, but despite the family lineage, John will be the first to admit, as a father, it's been a bag of mixed feelings.
Well, I was certainly proud of him for wanting to do that. At the same time, very apprehensive, especially knowing what was going on and what may come about.
Pride is also what comes to mind for Owen. Pride in the fact that both his son and grandson followed in his footsteps for all the right reasons.
Family. 2 or more people who share goals and values.
Having long-term commitments to one another and reside usually in the same dwelling place. When you're with family, you see that you're doing not only for your country, but you're doing for your family too. And that's very close to you.
Not only for this family, but also for the men and women they serve next to.
Once you've been in the military and served, you are part of a brotherhood, a very different sort of brotherhood.
A brotherhood in arms, a part of something great.
Being part of the military helps you to live your life more fully. It helps you to be more than you are.
So whether it's love of family or love of service or both.
Love, a deep, tender, ineffable feeling of affection and solicitude
toward a person.
It's something the O'Rourkes don't just feel for each other, it's something they feel for our country, past, present, and future.